morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. If you've been joining us this week, you know that we have been celebrating World Ocean Week. So all week long, we've been connecting with scientists and explorers and conservationists, artists and filmmakers to learn about how they're researching, exploring, documenting, and looking for solutions to solve some of the problems facing our blue planet. So it has been one crazy week. We have our event right before this. We were hanging out with astronaut Nicole Stott and learning about the NEMO missions that she used to do to train to go up to the space station. Yesterday, we hung out with Victor Vescovo, who led the 5 Deeps expedition, first person to go to the 5 deepest points of our ocean. We have been hanging out with a lot of amazing scientists and explorers this week. In fact, this is our final event of our World Ocean Week. We've had 16 live events for classrooms across Canada and the US this week. And we're going to wrap up with a little virtual field trip action. So we are going to connect with Nautilus and the Ocean Exploration Trust team on their second live expedition of 2024. So they will be exploring the Northeastern Pacific Ocean off the coast of Canada as part of their partnership with Ocean Networks Canada, with the main objective of this expedition being to provide maintenance and support of their cabled observatory NEPTUNE, which stands for Northeast Pacific Undersea Networked Experiments. So the Ocean Exploration Trust and the Nautilus Exploration Program aim to explore the ocean, seeking out new discoveries in the fields of geology, biology, maritime history, archaeology, and chemistry, while pushing the boundaries of education, outreach, and technological innovation. So I'm going to bring in, we have joining us today, we've got Jamie Zachariah, who is with the communications team on board, and we've got Danny Hinshaw, who is an ROV pilot tech. So let me bring them in here with us. Hey, Danny. Hey, Jamie. How you doing?
Hello. How are you?
How's it going?
Good. It's great to have you joining us. We have a great group of classrooms from Canada and the US joining us. We're going to have some Q&A action. We're going to have some Kahoot quiz action. And but first, we want to get to know the two of you a little bit and what you guys are up to.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having us, especially during World Oceans Week. My name is Jamie Zachariah, and I work for the Ocean Exploration Trust full-time as the Outreach and Media Coordinator. And I'm sailing on this specific expedition as the communications lead.
I'm Danny Hinshaw, and I'm an ROV pilot technician, and I usually have a full-time job at the University of Hawaii as a ROV pilot technician / machinist. But they get to go out on all these fun cruises with Nautilus, so it's good to be here. Thank you.
So we're actually connecting to you from Onboard EV Nautilus. So I'm going to show you what that is. This is EV Nautilus, EV standing for Exploration Vessel. And Nautilus is about 68 meters long, or maybe 224 feet, and can fit up to 50 people at a time, including all of our wonderful and important crew members. It was originally built in the 60s in Europe, but has been retrofitted to be an ocean exploration ship. And you can see some really cool pieces of technology on here that we'll talk about more in detail later. The big white ball, that's our satellite that allows us to do telepresence. And then you see the back deck coming up, the cranes. You can see ROV Hercules if you look closely. That's where we deploy all of our machinery and technology for ocean exploration. But ocean exploration is kind of a broad topic, and there's a lot of different parts to it. So one of the most important parts that I want to talk about first is seafloor mapping. So sonar, which as you might have heard of from something like whales or bats, we actually can use sonar as well. We use it from a machine on the bottom of our ship, and the sound pings down to the ocean floor and pings back up. And based on the intensity and the speed of that sound, we can create these maps of the seafloor. You'll see the colors show how deep certain areas are. And this is really important because the seafloor is covered with water, satellites from space can't make accurate maps. So we need to do it this way, which is a long, kind of tedious process. And we have only really mapped a quarter, maybe, of our seafloor of the planet. So we've got a lot to go. So not only are we contributing to the whole global effort to map the seafloor, but we're also mapping areas we want to dive in, because we can't just dive down blind, right? We want to make sure we're diving on a spot that we want to dive on. Sometimes we're diving on a place that we know has equipment, like what we're doing today, that we need to fix. Or sometimes we find a seamount or underwater mountain that we want to dive on because we think there might be really cool coral communities or something like that. But the first step to all of that is seafloor mapping and creating the maps. And then when it comes time to dive, we do so with ROVs, or remote operated vehicles. These are our 4 main ROVs. ROV Hercules on the top, that's our main one that we use, and it's a dual body system, so it'll either work in tandem with Atalanta or Argus to explore the seafloor. Do you want to explain how the dual body works?
Yeah, so if you think of it like a fishing lure, you have a weight on the end of your line, and when you cast out, your weight pulls the line to the bottom. So we have a big cable on the back of the ship, and using that cable, we have the weight, which is Atalanta or Argus, which is basically a clump weight at the end of the cable to keep everything in line, a straight line down from the back of the ship. And then we have a soft tether, which is neutral buoyant. So it doesn't really interfere with the interaction of Hercules trying to do science on the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, so working together, we've kind of created a system where Hercules can have a smoother, easier ride for the pilots on board, and which is perfect because it's streaming live video to us in the control van and to anyone who's tuning in on nautiluslive.org. We bring real-time ocean exploration to the world. This is an example of us launching ROV Hercules, and since there's no light in the deep sea, we can explore night or day, and it doesn't matter to us.
So interesting fact about Hercules, there's 14 lights on the front of a Hercules. Each one of them is 10,000 lumens.
Wow, I did not know that. Yeah, it's very, very dark down there, so we have to bring our own light.
We bring a lot of light.
So when you see videos of down there and you see it lit up, that's because the light is coming from Hercules. But these remotely operated vehicles are connected to the ship by a tether, and that's how they get their power. But they're not driven by people inside them. There's no people inside them. Instead, they're driven by pilots up in the control van. Do you want to talk about being a pilot?
Yeah, so in the control van, we have 3 stations, and they're actually behind us. And we have the first station starting at your right-hand side. We have a navigator station. They tell us where to go, what the ocean bottom looks like, and directs the ship to where we want to dive. Then in the center there, we have our pilot station, and the pilot has several screens in front of them, and that has all of our information about what's going on with the robot, how we control lights, how we turn on different instruments, different cameras, how to change the cameras, and then we have on the left-hand side, we have what's called our co-pilot, or Atalanta Argus pilot. And what they do is they drive the winch, which gives us our elevation of how deep we are going to go. They also do is they direct Atalanta or Argus a direction, and they have a high definition camera on Atalanta that actually gives us an overview, kind of like a bird's eye view of what we're doing on the bottom of the ocean. So in the pilot station, you have that control box. It's just like playing a video game, Xbox. You have your different buttons that do different actions, and then you have 3 different joysticks. And the 2 main joysticks on either side are what we use to drive forward, backward, side to side, rotate. And then we have the left-hand side joystick, which is actually our elevation. It's thrusting up in the water or thrusting down. Usually we fly Hercules about 50 pounds buoyant. That way it's always trying to come up. That way we can just give it a little bump down and keep a nice level action.
So as I mentioned before, when we're doing all of this, while the pilots are flying the ROVs, while the navigators are navigating, the scientists are recording, all of this data, including the live video, is being sent up to the ship and then up into a satellite and then back to the world to see. And we do that through a process called telepresence, that big white ball that I talked about. Well, telepresence is basically what makes it possible for anyone around the world to join us. So in this cute little animation, there's ROV Hercules taking video, taking water samples, taking all sorts of data, and sending the information up the tether that Danny talked about through Atalanta or Argus. Again, another tether up into the telepresence bulb, into our satellite, and then into space, and then back down to the computers of millions, hopefully, of people around the world who are watching. And that includes scientists who will use that data for their own research, because don't forget, it's really difficult to get down to these places. So the data is very critical, and we want to make sure a lot of people can use it, as many people as possible.
Another good feature of this is we actually can have scientists ashore watching us live. And if we see something that we have no idea what it is, they will actually call in and tell us, hey, this is what that is. And we can interact with them and get directive. And we've been able to accomplish so much with having scientists not having to pack up and go to sea for weeks at a time. They can be in their office, they can be in their lab doing their research, and they can call in and help us out.
Absolutely. That's another great thing that our technology allows us to do. It brings scientists to sea when they couldn't get there.
Exactly.
And speaking of scientists, this is a photo from some of our scientists in the wet lab. We have a wet lab on the ship. So when we do bring samples up from the seafloor, maybe rocks or corals, sediment, water samples, really anything, we bring them into the wet lab, and our scientists will process them and sometimes preserve them and take their measurements and take their recordings. And I can show you a clip of what's going on in the wet lab right now. What are we doing down here? It looks like.
Well, the processing samples that we just recovered from the seafloor, actually.
What kind of samples did we collect recently?
We collected 6 different water samples using Niskin water samplers. And what those are these water bottles that hang on the side of the vehicle. And the water bottles are open on either end with these spring-loaded caps. So what we do is we pull a activator lever, and it closes the caps and conceals that water sample into that bottle. And then once we bring it up on surface, they can sample it, they can save it, they can do all the studying they need to do to that water sample. We also have push cores. Push cores are just a plastic cylinder that basically have a handle on them, and we just shove them into the ground, pull them out, and it takes a full sample of what was in that area of the soil. So the detritus, the nutrients, the sea creatures living in that soil, all that comes up to the surface in a sample, and the scientists process them.
Yep. And all of our samples, once back to shore, go to the Harvard Museum of Zoological Science. I might be getting that name a little bit wrong. It's a Harvard museum, and the samples live there. And any scientist anywhere can rent them or check them out, just like at a library, so that they can study them. Because, like I said before, we're very passionate about providing data for anyone that wants to use it.
Yeah.
So I think we should show you some of the cool stuff we see when we go down to the deep ocean, starting with corals. You probably are more familiar with shallow water corals, which are also really cool, but most of those are photosynthetic. So they have algae that photosynthesizes food for them using sunlight. But in the deep sea, there is no sunlight. So corals down here are predatory. They're filter feeders. Little pieces of biomatter will float by in the current, and the corals will eat it. And you'll see they're stuck on substrate or rocks like this, and they find a place that's good for the current coming by so they can get the most food as possible. Another type of filter feeding invertebrate in the deep sea are sponges like this one. I like to say this is what SpongeBob SquarePants would actually look like. This is a very long one. They come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. Sponges are really, really cool. And we also see other critters like this. This is the vampire squid. It is not actually a vampire. The scientist who named it was just being cheeky. But it's one of our favorites. You see those green dots there? Those are scaling lasers. That helps us measure what we're looking at, because sometimes images that come through the underwater cameras can be distorted. So whenever we have the scaling lasers, we know they're exactly 10 centimeters apart. And so we know roughly the size of what we're looking at here. And as you can see from what the scaling lasers were at before, this vampire squid is pretty big.
It is really cool looking.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit. So we do a lot of exploration over the year. We go all over the Pacific, Hawaii, American Samoa, Palau, Guam. We've got a huge year ahead of us. But right now we're doing an extra special expedition. It's called NA-161 ONC Abyss, Summer Abyss. So we're working with our partner, the Ocean Networks Canada, and we're working to maintain some of their really cool deep sea sites. So I'm going to show you a map. These are the sites that we're going to be visiting during this expedition. Can you give us a little information about what we'll be doing?
Basically, what we're doing is we are maintaining and installing new equipment into the undersea observatory. So they have a scientific lab that is basically a bunch of scientific equipment cabled together like your home internet connection, all connected up on the bottom of the ocean, and they take all kinds of different measurements and samples and different experiments from various scientific research facilities, different labs. There's so many things they do down here, but it's a big ocean network. So it's like your home network at home. If you had multiple computers, your Wi-Fi network, but this is all scientific equipment, and it's all in the deep water.
So we're going in and we're replacing older ones with new ones. We're adding some new tools. We're even exploring a new potential site for
expansion. Yes.
Yeah, for expansion. So it's going to be really cool. And we just started. So we just did our first dive. So there's a lot ahead of us in the next month. And within this region, there's some really cool things that we're going to see, including, hopefully, hydrothermal vents. Do you want to chat those, or you want me to take those?
I'll let you have
hydrothermal vents, I think, are so cool. These are places in the Earth's crust underwater where really hot and chemicals come out from the crust, and they create these vent-like structures. And the temperature is really high, and the chemicals are toxic to someone like us, to terrestrial beings. But there are some species that have evolved to live specifically in these habitats, and we study them and we visit the sites year after year because they change shape. And there were some earthquakes in the region in, I think, March. So we're going to go see if maybe that knocked down some of these towers, or maybe they look a little different. So we're excited to see what that looks like. You'll see here they're doing a temperature probe, and you'll see just how hot these hydrothermal vents get. Another reason why we use our ROVs and not ourselves, because that would be dangerous.
So Hercules actually is kind of unique. There's two arms on the front of Hercules. You have what we call the craft manipulator, and it's a 8-axis manipulator arm. So everything I can do with it in my hand, I can manipulate a miniature version of that arm to actually control and take samples with the ROV several thousand meters in the ocean. And we have two arms to accomplish the science at depth.
And another really cool thing I wanted to show you that we're kind of come across is a different version of this. The video is not the right one that we're going to see. This video is from California, but it's called a whale fall. And we're hoping to revisit a whale fall that we know is in this area. And a whale fall is when a whale passes away and its body falls down to the bottom of the ocean, and it becomes an all-you-can-eat buffet for so many different critters. You can see here on this one, there's a bunch of octopus. There are even specific type of worms that have evolved, and all they eat is dead whale. So it's a really, really cool example of deep sea ecology. And by revisiting it every year, we can study the rate of decomposition, the structure of the ecosystem over time, and get really cool measurements. And we're doing a photogrammetry project with it too, so that we can make a 3D virtual experience of it, hopefully.
Yeah, we also have a really cool high definition sonar that we're gonna try out. It will create, kind of like if you play the game Minecraft, this sonar creates a Minecraft image of what we're looking at in real time. It's really cool. We're going to be playing around with that this year. And hopefully we can get a model of this whale fall. I actually got to look at it last year, and it was really cool. I mean, I've never seen a whale fall before. And last year during this cruise, I actually got to see it and we did photogrammetry of it.
That's so cool. I watched those videos, but I'm hoping to see it myself this year from the control van. And one more thing I really, really wanted to stress is that the core of exploration, or the people who make this possible, are some of the most diverse, wonderful, skilled people in the world. Everybody has their own talents, their own interests, and their own path to ocean exploration. Some people go to school for many, many years. Some people don't go to school at all. Some people come from the military. Some people come from technical backgrounds. Some people are writers and communicators like myself. Whether you're into computer science or engineering or photography, there is a room for you on an exploration ship. And of course, we have a crew. Of course, if you like cooking, if you like being a sailor, again, there's room for everyone on an ocean exploration voyage. It looks like our team is working on ROV Hercules in the hangar now. Why don't I show you what that looks like? You want to talk about this?
So this is our hangar for ROV Hercules. It's basically our workshop. So the Hercules comes on deck and it sits on a cart, and on that cart we pull it into the ship so we can get it out of the weather and get inside so we can take it apart and work on all the vital and sensitive electronics. Right now, we have just pulled it out of the water about 15-20 minutes ago. And what we're doing is we're doing system checks. We're doing what's called a post-dive. And basically, we're checking the health of the vehicle after a long dive in the water. So to do that, we have a checklist. And it's just simple things. It's like, did we turn off the lights? Did we make sure everything's plugged in correctly? Did we drain the oil? Check for water ingress in different systems? And basically, we're just checking the overall health of the system before we get ready to dive again.
Yeah. And what are we doing next today?
I believe we're doing some deck work. They're going to be getting ready to deploy some autonomous sediment traps, and there's a mooring I think they're going to start working on.
Yeah, those traps you just mentioned are underneath the teal covers right there. So not a great view, but our deck chiefs are out there working on it. This is our back deck. So we'll be doing that later today if you're streaming and you want to watch. But yeah, we've got a lot of really cool stuff ahead of us for this expedition. We're only like 2 days in. We've got 3 more weeks out here, so we're gonna see some really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's our first dive day. We put the ROV in the water about midnight last night, local time, and we pulled it out about 30 minutes ago. And we can stay in for an indefinite amount of time. We basically run out of things to do on the bottom. We have to come up and get more stuff to do. Yeah. So right now we're in kind of a cool down phase so they can get ready for another dive, hopefully this evening.
Yeah. So we've been talking a lot, and I think you guys probably have questions, or maybe you have something else lined up next. So I'm going to pass it back to you, Joe.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. It's always great to have a view of the Pacific Ocean on World Ocean Day. So thank you so much for giving us that back deck view and for really taking us into this expedition. I know your expedition season is just kind of getting off the ground, but I hope students will go to Nautilus Live and follow along, because I think your season is going to go till the end of December this year. And whenever the RVs are in the water, they can be there and see it happening in real time. And, the discovery right at the same time as you guys are. It's pretty cool.
One of the big things about our system is anytime you have a question, you see something on the screen and you want to know, you can ask it. If we're in the water, we have someone ready to answer questions, and we will talk to you through the science communication channel where all the pilots, everyone in the room is able to talk to the live interaction.
All right. Well, we're going to play a little round of Kahoot together. While you were talking a little bit about what you guys are up to in Nautilus, I prepared a little Kahoot quiz behind the scenes. So I'm going to share my screen really quickly here. Should be coming up now. There we go. And if you're in your classroom, you want to go to kahoot.it. So kahoot.it, then it's going to ask you for a PIN number. You want to use 615-3019. And then it will bring you in and give you your auto-generated animal name. If you have a device at your desk, maybe you've got a tablet or a Chromebook, you can join that way. If not, your teacher could pop this up at the front of the classroom. You could shout out your answers to him or her. If you can't get in with technology, don't worry. You can still play along and see how you do. You don't necessarily have to join in with tech. If you are at home, you can scan that QR code. Maybe you've got your phone handy or a tablet. If you're tuning in with us via YouTube, please use the chat sidebar and start sending in your questions now. We'll work some of them into the event. And then we have some camera classrooms backstage. After the Kahoot, we will bring some of those camera classrooms in and we will get some questions about Nautilus and expeditions and all the cool tech that you do have on board. All right, I think things have slowed down a little bit, so I think we have our group in here and ready to go. So I'm going to start this Kahoot so that we have lots of time for some Q&A action. All right, here we go. All right, first question is a multiple choice. How long is EV Nautilus? Is it 32 meters, 37 meters, 68 meters, or 100 meters long? How long is exploration vessel Nautilus? 32 meters, 37 meters, 68 meters, or 100 meters long? You've got about 10 seconds to get your answer locked in, and then we'll have our first look at the scoreboard. All right, good job, crew. It is 68 meters long. Let's go to the scoreboard. The Joyful Sloth is in first place. Let's jump to our next question. It is another multiple choice coming your way. About how much of the seafloor has been mapped? Is it 10%, 25%, 50%, or 75%? About how much of the seafloor has been mapped? 10%, 25, 50, or 75? Good job, crew. It is about a quarter, and there's a lot of work being done to change that. We need better maps of our ocean. We shouldn't have better maps of Mars and the moon than we do our own ocean. Dr. Turtle has taken the lead. Let's go to our next question. True and false coming your way. Brighter colors on the seafloor map mean it's very deep. We didn't talk about this today. Have a think. You think the brighter colors on the seafloor map mean that it's very deep? So is that true, or is that false? That the brighter colors mean it's very deep? All right. Couldn't fool you guys. You're right. The brighter colors are shallower, and that deep, rich blue color is the deeper part. Dr. Turtle's holding on. We got one more question to settle this thing. It's another true and false. The lights on Hercules are 10,000 lumens. True or false? The lights on Hercules are 10,000 lumens. All right. Good job, crew. That is true. Let's get to our podium, and then we'll get to some Q&A action. In third place, we've got the Bold Dingo. In second place, the Joyful Sloth. And holding down that top spot, Dr. Turtle, able to hold on for the last few questions. All right. Good job, Dr. Turtle. I'm going to come back from my screen share. We're going to turn off this Kahoot music, and then let's get into that Q&A action. Okay. Let's start off. We've got Mrs. Moore's fourth graders hanging out with us. I'm going to bring them into the call now. There we go. Hey, Mrs. Moore, how you doing? Looks like she might be getting her class.
We're having some technical difficulties, and my Promethean disconnected. Sorry. James, come on up. Come on up, sweetie. You do not have a question. Hamlet, come on up. Go ahead.
How long have you guys been doing this for?
That's a great question. Personally, I've been with the Ocean Exploration Trust for almost 3 years.
I've been an ROV pilot for about the last 5 years, but this is only my second Exploration Trust mission.
And the Ocean Exploration Trust is celebrating its 15th year of ocean exploration this year. Thank you.
All right. Let's grab another one there. I see some hands.
Oh, Dorca, can I touch? James, click the full screen button.
And it looks like you got the board connected again. That's good.
I did. Go ahead, sweetie.
Have you ever dived into the ocean to figure out stuff that you didn't know?
Do you mean us personally?
Yeah, or someone else.
Well, our ROVs are always diving to find things they don't know, right? But like we said, they're unmanned, which means they don't have people in them. There are other ROVs that belong to other organizations that have people in them, things like maybe Alvin you've heard of, but that's not something that we work with.
It's actually not an ROV. It's an HOV.
It's an HOV.
It's a
I stand corrected.
human-occupied vehicle.
All right. Well, Miss Moore's crew, we're going to come back and join you shortly and see if you have some more questions for us. I'm going to go now. We've got a virtual class hanging out with us here in Ontario, Canada. How are we doing today? St. Isidore?
We're doing great. Can you hear us?
We gotcha. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. It's fascinating to see the whale fall. And we're just overwhelmed with all of the beautiful film footage you've shared with us today. Thank you. And your beautiful vessel and the opportunity to work together. Does anybody have a question for our friends? They would like to know, have you seen any dangerous animals?
You know what I like about this question is that I don't really think they're dangerous.
Yeah, it's a matter of perspective, isn't it?
Yes, but we have seen a lot of different types of animals. You know, maybe some people are afraid of things like sharks, and we do see sharks, but they've never attacked us, and certainly not our ROVs. Mostly when we see animals, they're more curious about what we are. Sometimes they'll swim up to us, sometimes they'll swim away, but we've never had an angry or dangerous situation with wildlife.
I will say, those squid, they get very angry.
Squid, that's
They
true.
they
Yeah,
they love to ink the ROV.
That's true.
Okay, the students wondered, have you seen a giant squid and had any confrontations with giant squids?
Not
they're
giant
probably
squid, but just standard small
standard
squids.
size.
Yeah,
They
the
like
giant
to
ones
play
are
with
really
it.
hard to find.
Okay.
So if we ever come across one of those, you'll probably see it on the 8 o'clock news.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they just wanted, do you have any helpful tips for us as students to help our environment from your perspective?
What a great question. Yeah, I think the most important thing you can do is keep learning and keep sharing what you learn with all of your friends and family, because we're all still learning. There's no one who can stop. And the more you know, the more you'll be able to protect the world that we live in.
That is a very good answer. I would say recycling and making sure we keep plastic out of the ocean as much as possible.
Right.
Being an ROV pilot, seeing the amount of trash that actually accumulates in the ocean is sickening. So if you can join your local beach cleanup crew or volunteer to help on things like that, that is the best way to help out.
Great
Awesome.
answer too.
Yeah, great answers. Thank you. Thank you again for all your efforts out there taking care of our oceans. And thanks to
Thank
Joe
you for joining us.
Of course.
We're really enjoying it. It's been a fabulous week.
If there's any more questions, I'll come check in with you a little bit later if they have any more.
Thanks.
All right. I'm really glad you brought up ocean plastics because they really are everywhere. When we were hosting Victor Vescovo, who's been, I think, 17 times or 15 times to the Challenger Deep, the deepest part of our ocean. And they found some new species. They took some samples, and one of them had plastics incorporated in it. And I think the scientific name they chose, part of it has plasticus in it, just to kind of illustrate how we are impacting our oceans with those plastics that are getting into the water. All right.
Absolutely.
We've got to go to Virginia. This is Last Home Cruise hanging out with us.
Have you ever found a new species of a shark?
We have not found a new species of shark, but we find new species all the time. Generally, they're things like maybe corals, sponges, or jellyfish we found, invertebrates. But we do find new species all the time because we're often visiting places no one's ever seen. The less exciting answer to that question is that it takes a really long time for scientists on shore to confirm that something's a new species. That's why you don't hear about it as much. But yeah, we're always finding something new.
Yeah.
Jill, did you
Right. Great question.
Wait, come on up. What's your favorite sea creature?
That one right there. No, I'm kidding. My favorite personally is sharks. I studied sharks and I love sharks.
Octopus. Octopus just remind me of myself. Always doing so many things with so many different parts, so many different arms.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense for a pilot. That's a good answer.
All right. Great question.
Thank you for your question.
What's the weirdest creature you've ever seen?
Ooh, weirdest. I mean, there was a purple orb once that we saw, and nobody could identify it. In fact, we called it the mysterious purple orb. And I actually don't think it's been identified yet. There's a video of it on nautiluslive.org, so if you ask your teacher or parent or guardian to help you find it. They have some guesses, but it's still not been identified yet. So to me, that's pretty weird.
I'm going to have to say that takes the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Great question.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll try and swing back. Yeah, very cool. We'll try and swing back your way. We'll see if you have. Oh, someone's too quick. All right, take your question.
What is the deepest depth you've ever been?
Oh,
Or
good question.
Hercules.
So ROV Hercules goes 4,000 meters deep, which is pretty deep. Have you gone deeper than that?
Yes, I have. So
Wow.
ROV Lukai, which is the University of Hawaii's deep submergence ROV, can go down to 6,000 meters, which is considered full ocean depth. It can go anywhere in the ocean besides the trenches.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Each ROV is designed differently, and they have a different depth, which is another one of the really cool things about being an ROV engineer.
All right.
Thank
Cool
you for your question.
Thank you. We've got to go back to our virtual school in Canada. They have a really cool question up from Jerusha, so we'll let them ask that question.
Super. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jerusha wants to know, have you ever found any of the species that we thought were extinct, but now you've rediscovered them to share with today's generations? Like maybe something's been reluctant and hiding in the depths?
So as far as I know, we have not found something that was declared extinct on Nautilus. I know that has happened to scientists. We have definitely found things that people didn't know lived in the locations that we found them. Like we found a sea pen that had only ever been seen in the Atlantic Ocean, but we found it in the Pacific Ocean. So
Cool.
that was a really cool discovery. And there's just so much of the ocean we haven't seen yet. I would not be surprised if something like that happened one of these days.
Or it happened to realize it.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Remember, the ocean is huge, and we are a little tiny speck with an ROV and a flashlight that basically to explore a very vast amount of water.
Do you want to ask that question about the purple orb?
Yeah, we were curious how big was the orb that you saw?
So if
Teeny
you guys
tiny mama.
hold on, we can show you.
I'm going to bring
Okay.
up the video.
Fantastic.
It's not the best quality. I apologize. So here's the orb. I'm hoping they will turn the scaling lasers on, but it wasn't very large. Not by comparison to terrestrial animals, but big enough that you could see some really cool details in there. See, oh, there we go. There's our scaling lasers. So my question to you, if those scaling lasers are 10 centimeters apart, about how big do you think the purple orb is?
Ooh, how big do you guys
Look
think?
at the angry crab.
So the green monitors are 10 centimeters apart?
Yes.
Oh, what do you guys think?
I apologize, they've gone away now, but
That's
if you
okay.
have a guess, it looks like
Maybe
it's probably
2.5 centimeters, maybe?
Well, it looks like, yeah, well, I was thinking
That's
maybe
about,
like,
if you look at the size of the crab's leg that just
Right.
attacked it.
yeah, it was small compared to the laser, so definitely no more than 10.
It's really an
Mhm.
interesting specimen.
Yeah, I
It
hope
is.
that we will be able to announce some information about this soon.
I wonder if it's a creature or maybe an egg of a creature. Who knows? I don't know what's going on there. That's exciting.
The current guess is that it's a plural branch sea slug, but we will
Ooh,
see.
that's interesting.
Very cool.
Thanks. Who else has a question, real quick? Danielle, what's your question, dear? Have you ever heard of the world's oldest animal that scientists had sadly put to sleep forever? I'm not sure what the name of it is. Danielle, do you know? Could you hear that? It's a clam. She can't remember the name of it, but it's
Oh,
apparently the oldest creature that had been found. Some clam that they had to put to sleep. I'm going to have to look that up now myself.
Yeah, I haven't heard about that either.
yeah.
Well, I know Hawaii had a giant clam in one of the labs, but I don't know if it's the same clam.
But they do live really long lives.
Yes, they
really long lives. So
Yeah,
it's highly
Danielle
likely.
thinks this. Yeah, she thinks this one was almost 400 years old. So that's phenomenal.
Wow. Yeah. Sometimes we find things in the deep sea that live that long. A lot of corals our scientists will say have probably been around for hundreds of years.
Millions.
Millions of years.
Gold coal.
Gold?
So gold coal is a parasitic coal that grows over top of dead coal. And it takes hundreds of years to grow small amounts of it. And we come across these specimens every once in a while on specialized cruises where we get a sample of the gold coal, and it is absolutely beautiful.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Thank you for sharing.
That is cool. Thanks. That's very interesting.
All right, Ontario, thanks for those great questions.
And thank you for a fabulous week. Round of applause to everybody.
Great to have you with us. Thank you. Miss Moore's crew, do you have a follow-up question before we wrap up for today?
There we go.
How do you guys collect water samples?
That's a great question. We use something called a Niskin bottle. Do you want to talk about those?
Yeah, so a Niskin bottle, think of a Coke bottle with two open ends. So you have a cylinder, basically a cylinder. And basically what we have is these two caps on springs that snap shut. And what it does is it encapsulates that amount of water inside of that bottle. I don't know if we have a picture of a Niskin. You probably just Google it.
Yeah,
real quick.
I'm going to find one for you. But it allows us to collect water at a very specific depth.
Yeah, exactly. We can collect a very specific amount of water at a very specific depth, and it stays intact. Yeah, that's a good one.
Go a bit slow over here, but it will load. Here we go. Here's some Niskin bottles.
So that's basically the ends of a Niskin bottle are what seal it shut, and we have a remote operated pull lever on the vehicle that we pull on with the manipulator to close it at specific times.
And that allows us to have water from a very specific depth and for it not to be contaminated by any other water when we're bringing it back up to shore.
That is so cool.
All right, very cool.
What is your favorite ocean zone?
Oh, our favorite ocean zone. Do you have one?
Oh, the abyssal zone is the abyssal zone. It has a place in my heart because my first vehicle is an abyssal vehicle.
Wow.
And can you remind us about
Abyssal?
tell us about it?
The abyss. So the abyss is anywhere, I believe. I am not a scientist, so I may be wrong, but anywhere from around 3,500 meters to 6,000 meters. And then you get into the Hadal zone, which is like the trenches, like the Marianas Trench or Challenger Deep.
Abyssal zone is generally where we're exploring with Hercules.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of hard to beat that. The stuff you see down there is really cool, but I don't think I have a favorite. I like them all.
That's awesome. Ask your question real quick.
All right.
One question.
Do you guys clean up trash from the ocean?
Good question. If we see something floating on the ocean and we are able to get it, of course we will. It's not our objective out here, but if we see trash, we're certainly going to pick it up. And we've done so before. One time we found a giant fridge. We had to bring it back on deck, and we brought it back to shore.
That's awesome.
Anytime we're on bottom and we are deploying scientific instruments, a lot of times we use cable ties, zip ties, things like that. Anytime we use those, we actually will put them back on the vehicle and bring them back up with us. We try everything we can to minimize our impact on the bottom.
All right.
Thank you. Can we ask one more quick question?
All right, we'll squeeze one more in.
Last one.
Oh, what's the largest animal you guys have ever found?
Well, ROV Hercules has come across a sperm whale before, and it was beautiful and massive. So that's got to be the largest that we've come across.
So if you guys want, just Google Nautilus sperm whale. It's a video on YouTube. It has over 1 million views. It is an awesome video.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Very cool. Great questions. And then Miss Lascombe's crew will give you the final question if you guys have one or two to wrap up for us.
Ariana's the last question.
No, wait.
Final questions.
Okay.
Have you guys ever found, after scientists have found a new species, have you guys seen it again?
Yes. So there was a purple urchin at about 4,700 meters off of the coast of Hawaii. And we were the first people to actually sample the creature. It's been seen before, it's been identified, but no one was actually successfully able to sample an intact specimen. And that was one of my crowning achievements of being a young ROV pilot, is actually being able to sample this purple urchin. And it was rare, but we went down the next year and we were able to find a couple more.
That's so cool.
It was.
Very, very cool. All right. Thank you, Virginia crew. All right. Well, I want to start off with a shout out to the classes who joined us on YouTube. Thank you for sending in some questions. Thank you for playing the Kahoot. To our camera classrooms, I'll bring a few of you back in. Camera classrooms, our virtual class as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. A big goodbye and thank you to our Nautilus friends who hung out
Bye.
Happy World Ocean Day to everybody tomorrow. But for now, we're going to sign off. Jamie, Danny, thank you so much. Where should students go if they want to follow your adventures?
NautilusLive.org.
NautilusLive.org. All
You
right.
can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, all the social medias, but nautiluslive.org is where you're going to see the real-time video.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for wrapping up World Ocean Week with us here at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. It was great to hang out with both of you, and I hope you have a great expedition.
Thank you so much. We look forward to sharing the rest of our expedition with the world.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
All right. We're signing off for today. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.